Kuruk, son of Yawgmoth, is an absolute brutal commander to play against, and today I wanted to go over some cards you could be throwing into the 99 of Kuruk, son of Yawgmoth. Let's get into it. Kuruk, son of Yawgmoth is 4 and 3 black Phyrexian mana for a 2/2 legendary horror minion. Lifelink. For each black mana symbol in a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Kuruk, son of Yawgmoth. Wow, this is giving us a huge advantage on our black spells. Not only is all of our black mana now Phyrexian mana, but Kuruk gets bigger the more spells you play. So for example, let's say we had Dauthi Voidwalker, Phyrexian Obliterator, or Necropotence in our hand. Dauthi Voidwalker would cost 4 health to cast instead of 2 black mana. Phyrexian Obliterator would cost 8 health to cast instead of 4 black mana. Necropotence would cost 6 health to cast instead of 3 black mana. Or you can mix and match how you cast these cards however you see fit. Dauthi Voidwalker could cost 1 black and 2 health, Phyrexian Obliterator could cost 3 black and 2 health, or 2 black and 4 health. You get the idea. And Kuruk still greatly helps black spells even if they have generic mana in their mana cost. Lord of the Void would only be 4 to cast if you paid 6 health. Liliana of the Dark Realms would only be 2 to cast if you paid 4 health, and Skithrix the Blight Dragon would only be 3 to cast if you paid the 4 health. So as you can see, Kuruk is going to greatly bolster how fast we're going to be able to play our black spells at the cost of health. Getting back on track to the deck itself, a huge inspiration for this deck idea was Grand Arbiter Augustine IV. Grand Arbiter Augustine IV is 2, a white and a blue for a 2/3 legendary human advisor. White spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, but spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast. So pretty much Grand Arbiter is making your spells cheaper, but is taxing your opponent's spells by 1. This deck, in a similar vein, has Kuruk making all your black spells cheaper at the cost of health, but having a bunch of taxing cards in the 99. And yes, while many of these cards tax everyone, they are not going to be affecting you as much because you have the alternate option of using your health to help pay for your black spells. And many of these taxing effects will stonewall your opponents from casting many spells, especially if you have multiple out at once. God Pharaoh's statue and Faraz's ban are huge taxing effects to overcome, with God Pharaoh's statue not even affecting us at all, only affecting your opponent's spells. Nether Void is absolutely oppressive to play against, and counters anyone's spell unless they pay 3. Quick little side note, Nether Void is on the reserve list and is a very expensive card. So if you don't own it already and you are planning to use it, I would definitely recommend using proxies. Just make sure that your playgroup is okay with it. Some other oppressive cards that punish people for playing Magic the Gathering is Oppression and Painful Quandary. Oppression is 1 and 2 black for an enchantment. Whenever a player plays a spell, that player discards a card from his or her hand. And Painful Quandary is another black enchantment that's 3 and 2 black. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless he or she discards a card. These are going to be great for draining our opponent's hands and resources. Probably some of the meanest stax pieces to play are Contamination and Smokestack. Contamination is 2 and a black. During your upkeep, sacrifice a creature or sacrifice Contamination. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, it produces black instead of its normal type and amount. So this forces everybody to only produce black mana. Smokestack is 4 colorless to do. For an artifact that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a soot counter on Smokestack. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a permanent for each soot counter on Smokestack. To the unprepared, Smokestack will cripple players' resources, especially if players don't have much sacrifice fodder or if Smokestack is left alone for too long. And remember, putting soot counters on Smokestack is a May ability, so you get to decide how many permanents players will be sacrificing. Furthermore, some great sack fodder to keep up with these stax pieces are Bitter Blossom, Dreadhorde Invasion, Ophiomancer, and Reassembling Skeleton. Bitter Blossom and Dreadhorde Invasion make a token on our upkeep at the cost of 1 health. Ophiomancer makes a snake token on each upkeep, just as long as we don't already have a snake token, and reassembling skeleton at the cost of 2 mana will always come back to the battlefield tapped and is perfect sacking fodder. And you can interchange any one of these cards that produce sack fodder to pay for the upkeep cost of these stax pieces. So while you're just sacking some token or a reoccurring creature, your opponent's lands are going to be locked out of producing any other color, potentially shutting their deck down. While on the other hand, with Smokestack on the field, you're just going to be sacrificing some token while your opponents have the potential to sacrifice vital resources, such as artifacts, enchantments, creatures, lands, and even planeswalkers. Another great combo for this deck is Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond. Exquisite Blood is 4 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Sanguine Bond is 3 and 2 black for an enchantment. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. With both of these enchantments on the field, at any given point, if an opponent loses health or you gain health, one enchantment will trigger the other until your opponent's health is drained out. Exquisite Blood also combos with Epicure of Blood, having the same effect with both of these on the field. Meanwhile, Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, and Defiant Bloodlord are just creatures that also have Sanguine Bond text, with Vito being my favorite because he's not only cheaper to cast, but if you also pay 3 and 2 black, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. One other combo I would like to touch on is Wall of Blood and Rite of Consumption. Wall of Blood is 2 and a black for a 0/2 wall, pay a health, Wall of Blood gets 1/1 until end of turn. Rite of Consumption is 1 and a black. As an additional cost to play Rite of Consumption, sacrifice a creature. Rite of Consumption deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target player. You gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. So at any point, if we have more health than an opponent, we could dump that much health into Wall of Blood, sacrificing it into Rite of Consumption and blasting that opponent out of the game. And we don't even lose any health from Wall of Blood because Rite of Consumption gives us that health back. To make sure we outvalue our opponents and get to our key pieces quicker, we're going to be running a fair bit of card draw in our deck. Some great examples of black card draw are Phyrexian Arena, Black Market Connections, Dark Confidant, and of course, Necropotence. And if you're ever looking for a specific card, whether that's a kill spell to one of your opponent's creatures or the last piece of a combo, Black has some of the best tutors in the game. Grim Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Imperial Seal, and Vampiric Tutor being some great examples. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, this is going to be costing us a lot of health, especially if we're going to be using Kurik and many of these other cards' life-draining effects to get us ahead. Good thing for us, there's plenty of great cards that have lifelink, including these artifacts that give our creatures lifelink. Mask of Gristlebrand is 1 and 2 black. Equipped creature has flying and lifelink. Whenever equipped creature dies, you may pay X health where X is its power. If you do, draw X cards. Equip 3. Whip of Erebros is 2 and 2 black for a legendary enchantment artifact that gives all of our creatures lifelink. And if you pay 2 and 2 black and tap it, we reanimate a creature with haste but exile it on our end step. Batterskull costs 5 for an artifact that's a living weapon. Equipped creature gets 4/4 vigilance and lifelink, and if we pay 3, we bounce it back to our hand and it has an equip of 5. Lockstone Warhammer costs 3 to put out. Equipped creature gets 3/0 and has lifelink and trample, and Lockstone Warhammer has an equip of 3. There's plenty of creatures that have lifelink as well, with Flenzermite being particularly unique because he also has infect. And if you really wanted to take the deck in that direction, there are plenty of both black and artifact creatures with infect. There's even ways to give creatures infect who don't have it already. Some great ways to pump up these small infect creatures and our army in general is Lash Wraith and Nightmare Lash. Each of these pieces of equipment give our creature a +1/+1 for each swamp we control, with Lash Wraith also being a living weapon as a bonus. Another super powerful pump effect is Hatred. Hatred is 3 and 2 black for an instant. Pay X health, target creature gets X+0 until end of turn. This is crazy with infect creatures, because you never have to pump too much health into this to take someone out. This also really complements your lifelink creatures, because remember, no matter how much health you pump into this, as long as your lifelink creature deals damage, you get all that health back. Some sneaky ways to get our creatures through are Shizo's Death's Storehouse and Rogue's Passage. Kurik is going to be a huge threat when he's on the field, so we're going to have to protect him. A few ways to protect them are Imp's Mischief, Commander's Plate, and Lightning Greaves. And besides Crick, we're also going to need other means of ramping, so we're going to be running an assortment of mana rocks, ritual effects, and creatures that double up our swamps. We're also going to need answers for our opponent's stuff, and black has plenty of removal. Feed the Swarm is particularly nice because it's one of the only black spells that could get rid of enchantments. Deadly Rollick and Snuff Out are also great because they have the alternate option not to cost anything just as long as you meet their requirements. We're also running a few board wipes in case the game starts tilting out of our favor. Mutilate, Damnation, and Toxic Deluge are all fantastic board wipes in this deck. All in all, the deck idea is to outvalue your opponents while using your health as a resource to bolster your game plan, meanwhile slowing down your opponents with stax pieces. But anyways guys, those are my thoughts on Crick, Son of Yawgmoth, and some cards you can be running in the 99. Not gonna lie, after playing with this deck in a few of my local game stores, you're not gonna be making any friends. You're gonna be public enemy number 1. But I guess if you're running stax, that's just par for the course. And adding infect in the mix just added insult to injury. And guys, if you found this video informative or entertaining in any way, definitely like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.